So here's an interesting story that just popped up. GameStop. We talked about them, I think, most recently because they're apparently looking to buy eBay, which sounded crazy. And it turns out eBay wasn't interested in that. So they turned it down and they moved on. At least that's kind of what we thought was going to happen. No, it seems that GameStop is still interested, still pursuing eBay. And in doing so, we're seeing more and more interviews pop up from their CEO, Ryan Cohen. And he had an interview today with Bloomberg Tech and talked about the current state of GameStop and where they are looking to head towards with the idea of acquiring eBay. And in doing so, pretty much buried video games. He did describe, I guess, the value of software right now, physical games in stores, if you will. Of course, that's what they're selling, and basically labeled them irrelevant. And that's really funny since, I mean, game is kind of in the title of their entire company, but we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So, there's the headlines that are popping up right now, like Insider Gaming, GameStop CEO says games are irrelevant to company revenue. And I saw this going around on social media because it started to trend. And I said, that sounds insane if GameStop would legitimately just go, games are not needed by like for it. It's like, isn't that what's in your stores mostly are games? But then I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, the last time I went to GameStop, which actually wasn't that long ago, I was looking for Adventures of Elliot, and I'll come back to that in a moment, just some of my recent experiences with GameStop. But I went in, and yeah, like 60-70% of the store, it's majority not games. It really is like collectibles. Trading cards seem to be a really big thing for them right now. And in fact, let me know if you've been to your GameStop recently in your area and this is something happening there too. There's an entire table. I think there's two tables set up at the one near me and a bunch of chairs around there. So I guess they do tournaments I've never actually seen anyone sit at these tables whenever I've gone, but they have them there. And then they have a bunch of like cards of all different kinds of sets, not just for Pokemon. It's like Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever else. And they're behind glass. And they have all the booster pack. It's a very clear, concerted effort to do all kinds of stuff away from games. And in a way, that's not a bad idea, considering, I mean, it's not like this market is super excited for GameStop to really exist with used games being all over the store. That doesn't at all help Sony or Microsoft or even Nintendo or anyone. So the idea of them exploring other avenues to make money, that's what they should be doing as a business if they want to exist after this shift to mostly digital, right? Well, is a very interesting, we'll say interesting interview. He's kind of I guess a character, Ryan Cohen, the way he kind of talks about the media with GameStop and the coverage of it. But I mean, again, when you see GameStop attempting this acquisition of eBay, it leaves a lot of people scratching their heads. And I think with good reason there. Okay. So with that in mind, here's the quote. And I went through and I had to see it for myself. I was like, really? Is that what it was? So I actually typed it up here. Like I put a little image of GameStop behind it, the whole thing. And he said, this was, by the way, this was in response to being asked about what's the plan for GameStop with it seems like Microsoft and Sony moving away from physical media and it going into this digital based era, starting in 2028 from the recent announcement with Sony. He says it doesn't matter. That being about the games, like, hey, the trade-ins, all that stuff seems to be a big part of your business. That's what it was formed on. He says it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Software. It mattered in the past. Software today makes up less than 12% of the business, and collectibles make up over half the business. So it's totally irrelevant. And it seemed like the person who was doing the interview at Bloomberg was trying to get something out of Ryan Cohen over Grand Theft Auto 6. And that's the thing that's so interesting to me is you feel like, I know they have a code in a box at retail. They still have something at retail that you have to assume, even if it's just code in a box, it's going to generate some kind of foot traffic for your store. So you feel like you would be kind of excited to at least talk about that for, I don't know, 60 seconds. I don't think he said anything about GTA 6. He was asked, I believe, twice about it, and the second time he said, "I wanna go back to eBay." So he did spend a lot of time talking about this proposed deal of them acquiring eBay, and a lot of it hinges on the idea of collectibles. Like, he brought up trading cards, Pokemon cards even, as an example as to how this would benefit both eBay and GameStop if GameStop took over. Basically, he wants to run eBay. And the way he's describing it is these GameStop stores would become nodes for like immediate commerce or being able to authenticate, say, a card if you want to trade it in or sell it, anything like that. You will have, I guess, a neutral party is the idea at these stores that can authenticate and make sure it's not fraudulent, the card itself. Because look, the thing I will say with eBay, going back and forth with a seller through the internet and not being face to face, that yeah, that is kind of annoying. It ends up being a whole thing, right? Going back and forth there, and then if you have to ship it back, and there's a lot happening with that. As opposed to, I get it if there were almost eBay like stores that you could go to and get a lot of the logistical stuff done for you. Yeah, that would be nice. He keeps saying like live commerce or whatever, right? So essentially, it boils down to GameStop actually not being that interested in games. And it sounds so weird because it's GameStop. So I do wonder if there is I don't know, can you rebrand it? Maybe that's part of it. Like if they buy eBay, they would actually rebrand GameStop and it would just go away completely. Now, he mentions 12% of the business. I looked in this a little bit just to see. So I will at least say, I will give them credit right now. GameStop is actually not losing money anymore. No, no, no. I think, a year or two ago, they were losing millions and millions of dollars every quarter. I think the most recent report they had, it was $140 million of operating income. Now, a lot of that, I think, comes from recent cost saving measures where they were closing a ton of stores. And of course, then also laying people off, but trying to really cut down on the amount of money they have to put out to run the entire operation while leaning into more high margin areas. So collectibles, they're some at times substantial margins, especially if you do trade-ins when it comes to like cards and you end up having some that are very, very valuable. Yeah, that can go a long way. But even so, if you look at their software, the last I saw, and I was checking their recent fiscal report, it's higher than 12%, but not that much higher. It really is like, I don't know, 16% or something. So he's not that far off. And who knows? I mean, this might be an updated look at like current figures. He could be right there with 12%. And hardware and accessories makes up still a fair amount, almost 40% last I saw. So it makes up more than double the amount of software. But hardware and accessories, depending if it's used hardware, is also high margin. And accessories were always high margin. Like selling headsets with even way back in the day, we'll say during the 360 era when I was at the different stores, you'd make a good amount. So we'd order a headset. So think about, I'll tell you what it was. So you know those old 360 headsets where it was like the one earpiece. I'm kind of picturing is like all white with some gray, and then you had the one microphone that came around. Those were $19.99. We sold them for $20, and we ordered them for $9.50. And that was after shipping. So really it was probably like $8.50, then $1 per headset for shipping if you put enough in a box, basically. And so you can kind of see how you would just about double up your money on those. So accessories are high margin, used consoles are high margin, new ones not as much, but GameStop has a lot of used stuff, right? Collectibles, though, it was like 42%. So it's not wrong. And that's actually been growing. So collectibles over the last several years has been growing as part of GameStop's business. And software or games has actually been shrinking. And now it's getting close to single digits. So what he's saying here is not incorrect. It's just very, very weird. And so here's my experience with GameStop. And let me know if this is something that you've also had. And it's one of the reasons I've been kind of put off from even attempting GameStop anymore. When I would go there, it's become very difficult to find games that aren't just used on the shelf. And look, I will say used game shopping is nice because you tend to find good deals then, right? But if there's a new game that comes out and I'm looking to get it physically, which is most of the time, GameStop has not come through for me like ever. It's been a long time. I mean, it's probably been a couple of years. As in, you go to the store, maybe you didn't pre-order it, and you're like, you know what? I'll see if they have it in stock. And I think like 10 out of 10 times recently, it was not in stock. And so, Adventure to Elliott was a good example. I went to GameStop. I've gone to GameStop a couple of times now to see if they got restocks. And apparently they didn't have enough even for pre-orders. So I think part of this is also coming down to GameStop is just not ordering as many new games as they have before. Like, I think it's actually quite a bit lower than ever in the company's history. And I've kind of, again, experienced that firsthand. So because of that, I've just shied away from even going by GameStop unless I'm just going to browse for used games, or maybe even like some of the retro stuff is cool. Like, that's fine, but not at all for new games. I tend to look towards like Best Buy. Amazon's been kind of rough because they say it's same day delivery, like release day, and then you end up getting it the following week. So Best Buy's been pretty good about all of this, where I look online and like, yeah, we have it. You can come on by. So that's kind of been my go-to recently. Or even Walmart. Walmart's been pretty good as well, where I'll go by and they just have it out, behind the glass. And like, it's been actually pretty consistent for me there. But GameStop, hey, times are changing. We've been seeing this. Of course, Sony's still trying to bulldoze the internet right now. Not very successfully, I guess, but they're attempting it. And now even GameStop, who knows, in a year or two, I think if it does, we'll say. I'm not going to say as soon if it does, because they are very, very persistent. And I think it's because everything with GameStop right now is really reliant on this eBay deal going through. I think they rebrand right away. And it's like, GameStop just doesn't make sense anymore. Like, the games are not part of their business. Apparently, they are irrelevant. And so that would basically do it for GameStop. And I will say, even though GameStop has kind of fallen by the wayside for me in terms of the go-to for new games, there was a point in time where it was the go-to. And I remember, I'm thinking like the GameCube, PS2, original Xbox days. Man, that was the place. Like, so in high school, we'd get in one of the friend's car. The one friend who had a car is like, all right, let's go by GameStop and see what they got. And I still remember very vividly going there, and this was at the mall. This is the GameStop at the mall, and getting the Mega Man X collection. Again, this is on the GameCube, and man, that was just it's like that nostalgia trip. Even though the store is still around, it's just so different. I can still picture kind of walking in and remembering what that store looked like. It was just wall-to-wall games, and guess what was the small section back then? And at times, things that were getting pennied out. It was the little figures and like stuffed animals or whatever. Like, it was like a tiny little section. They even had like DVD movies back then. Yeah, it was weird, but much different times now. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. GameStop, the CEO speaks for the company, officially saying that games are relevant to them, and it makes me wonder what the future of that company actually looks like, especially if this eBay deal does come to fruition. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.